We're in the middle of a massive drama that goes back into the Atlantean period that we'll talk about in the Templar course. But before we worry about the mass drama, we need to understand the solutions that have to do with our personal dramas as we sit in our own little lives and try to figure out, what do I do with myself? I have feelings and things I might like to do or experience, but most of us don't even know what it means to be here or why we're here. We just kind of like amuse ourselves with trying to follow things that feel good. We go on the pleasure-pain principle. We move away from things that don't feel good and we move toward things that do feel good. And if we do that for most of our life, we get to the point where we're 80 or 90 years old and we don't move much because our bodies are falling apart, and we sit there and remember all of the good things as much as possible, or we go into the negative and remember all the bad things. And then we sit there in our bodies that don't move very well anymore, and this big ominous fear sits with us. My body's dying. Oh my God. What does that mean? That's when people like really get out the Bible and say, is your name Jehovah? Whatever your name is, please. Hi, I'm here. Sorry I didn't talk to you all my life, but I'm really ready now. I'm really, really sorry if I was bad. That's where we start to say, okay, maybe I was a sinner. Well, how do you get over that? Okay, that's atonement, right? Okay, what page did you look that up on? Okay, atonement. Hello. Because we're terrified of, oh my God, what if we die and there is a God? And if there is a God, and we didn't do what was said in the Bible or whatever holy book we're following, does that mean God's going to be really mad and do something awful to us? Or if I'm afraid of that so much that I'm going to just go the science way, I'm going to accept the fact that my consciousness is going to be annihilated when my body dies. So you sit there and wait to be annihilated. Real fun. I have children in this world, and so does Az. And think of the things that if we were raising them in the regular belief systems that are here, how depressing it is to tell your kids, oh, hey mom, what's life about? What does it mean when you're 20? And what does it mean when you're 30? Well, when you're 20, you still feel like it's worth it. When you're 30, you still hope it is, but you didn't get half as far as you wanted to. By the time you're 35, you start to feel the tug of the gene code where you get really tired, and it's all a lot harder to do what you were doing at 20, and it was easy, but you still have hope. By the time you're 40, you're in rebellion, and you want to go through a second childhood or adolescence because the whole thing that you tried to do didn't work out very well. So you go into wish fulfillment. Then by the time you're 50, you got too tired from your second childhood and decide that you better make peace with yourself, so it's a good time to get spiritual. So there's this whole process of things that we can mark our lives with in 10-year increments that have to do with dealing with the fact that we don't know what we're here for, we don't know what to do with ourselves while we're here, and we're terrified of what it means to be anyplace else because we might not be at all. When you have to look at your kids and realize this is what you need to tell them if you're going to do the mainstream thing, it's worth finding a better option, even if it makes you sound weird compared to the neighbors. Yeah. My daughter is really funny. She's 9 years old, and she talks to me about things. She'll come in and say, Mom, I can't sleep. My DNA is activating again. And I look at her and I just smile, because once upon a time in the ancient of days, all kids spoke like that. They knew. They knew when things were happening in their bodies and their DNA. They knew. They were taught since the time they were very small about where their chakras were located and about what this type of sensation meant, what that meant. They knew who they were. They knew why they were here, and they knew what to watch for and what to do with their energy system. So I'm watching my daughter, who sounds like an absolute nut compared to the other kids in the neighborhood, right? Only to their parents. She makes perfect sense in our house. But I watch her and I look at the hope that's being brought back here. A new generation of children now are going to be raised with the knowledge of what it means to have chakras and what it means to have subtle bodies and what it means to be a spirit using the vehicle of flesh to express yourself. It's also going to raise a generation of rebels who are going to look at the old system, say, excuse me, I don't think so. I come from a very big love space, and I don't have to fight with you, but I don't have to buy your nonsense either. And they're going to find a way. Because we're beginning to have the teachings brought back to us where we can all find a way of reharnessing the power that was our birthright from the beginning, which is the power of manifestation. Before we can reclaim our power of manifestation, we need to reclaim the vessel through which manifestation takes place. And that means we need to heal our bodies, our DNA templates, because through that healing we will get the rest of ourselves back in and remember all the wonderful knowledge we forgot, Once you start remembering, you won't need a speaker to tell you stuff. You'll realize you can access it directly through your own consciousness. Michael and I are speakers. Ascertania and I call them. I oscillate between the two, Michael and Ascertania. They're both his name. We're speakers, which means we have a job that we commissioned to do when we came in here as souls, as part of a team, part of the Indigo team, Team Indigo. We came in to help bring back the ancient teachings. But the teachings don't belong to us. They belong to all of you. They belong to everybody in this universe. We simply trained in a way that we could, on a planet with as much distortion in the grids as this one has. There were certain specialties of training that we needed to go through in order to understand how to get ourselves in a body, clear enough of the mess out of the gene code so we could then bring in the information and translate it in verbal form. But the information exists, and now the frequencies are becoming available on the planet. So even if there weren't speakers putting it in books for you to learn, if you knew just a little bit, if you knew that you have an avatar consciousness that lives right with you, and that there are things you can do to begin opening that knowledge, you would be able to begin accessing this data on your own. Now, the service that we do for people right now is to help them remember that. Because right now, if we didn't tell people this, people would still be having little choice other than believing what we've been told for thousands of years, which is we're pathetic, we're sinners, we die when our body dies, all this stuff, all this nonsense. If you don't know you have an avatar consciousness level, you're not going to be interested in looking for it because you're not going to know it's there.